Hi, Paula. Welcome to the show.
Hi Nick, how you going?
I'm great. I'm so excited that you're able to join. I know we've tried a couple of times because you're like super busy right now. I mean, the building industry is nuts. So I'm going to throw to you and ask you to give a little bit of a rundown of your role, where you are now, and then I'm going to just hit with some questions. So fire away, Paula.
All right, so I suppose to let you know a little bit about me, those that don't know, I've been in the building and construction industry for over 35 years. I entered the industry in the field of a diploma of architecture, which back in the day used to be called an dip art, and I worked for architects both in Sydney and in Perth before joining one of Perth's major builders, and I was there for over 22 years. I'm currently the general manager of Inspired Homes, which is a building company, and yeah, love every minute of it. I've kind of the customer experience has always been something that has been important to me and certainly been a key focus, especially trying to navigate through the latest challenges over the last 3 years. I'm also honoured to be on the Master Builder Association WA board as the first elected female board member. So that was a great honour. And I'm also the Vice Chair of the Master Builder Association Housing Council and the National Representative for West Australia on the Jobs and Skills Advisory Council. Further to that, I also sit on the Construction Training Fund Board, and on that board I'm fortunate enough to be able to work with industry and government in the planning for future apprenticeships and opportunities and innovations to not only meet the demands of the industry but to plan pathways to align for the future jobs that our industry will need. I'm also extremely proud to be the Women Building Australia Ambassador for Western Australia. Yeah, that's a huge challenge, but certainly one we're heading in the right direction, especially with I suppose the statistics being so low of women in our industry, both nationally and in Western Australia, and then to target in on that, increasing the percentage of women as apprentices in our industry as well. So a lot of things that I am involved in, but I'm very passionate about the industry, and I think that if we can open up opportunities for others and make it a smoother transition, because when I entered it was certainly a challenge. I was the only female in, I suppose, everything I did, both in the course, in bricklaying, because we did a whole lot of courses associated with your field back then. I don't think they do that now. When they do a course, I don't think you get a taste of everything. But it certainly was an experience, and I suppose gave me the foundation and the grounding that I've got as a skill set today.
Well, that's amazing, Paul. I mean, look, I've been fortunate to have known you for many, many years and worked with you as well as a leader in this industry and someone I've admired for some time. And that the rundown of what you've just gone through is a credit to you in the industry. It is a tough gig in the building industry. How did you decide? I know I only had just over 30 years, so you went for the 35 years in the industry. So how did you decide to follow this path? I mean, and I want to touch on this because I know you're very passionate about not only leadership, but women in this industry and leading them. I mean, you are, certainly someone that people wanting to aspire to should follow. How did you get started in such a male-dominated industry? And we're talking 35 years ago, and it really was.
So I've always been up for a challenge, but it's quite interesting. My story started when I was 6 years old. So we used to always watch the Brady Bunch, and I loved that Mike Brady worked from home as an architect.
Yes,
and
right.
one thing that I always wanted to bring up my own children. I never wanted to miss that opportunity of missing out on anything as a mother and as a parent. So I watched Mike Brady work from home, and he was involved in his children and the upbringing, and he could still work. And I just saw at such a young age that you could do both. So I set my sights on that pretty early. But I was always, when I talked to my mum, I was always building stuff. I was always drawing stuff. I mean, the building blocks. I was making towers with saucepans and Tupperware back in the day. So there must have been something there that I was in my genes that I was tapping into. But that was always my pathway. So when I went to school, I picked all the courses that could get me into that pathway. And it was actually work experience that really cemented that for me, because back in the day, in year 10, you'd go to work experience, you'd have 1 week, and I was fortunate enough to go to a company that was very well recognised then, and I did so well in that first week, and I was so proud of what I was achieving, and I loved it so much that they asked the principal if I could stay on for another week, and then another week. So I ended up being there for 3 weeks, and got an amazing reference of my experience there. And then that was it. I just wanted to do that role and follow that pathway, and that's exactly what I did. And I'm proud to say that I did work from home on the drawing board back in the day, and never missed a school tuck shop duty, a roster, sports carnival. I just balanced it. And I feel like I've achieved everything I wanted to, and the career pathway that went with that as well.
You certainly have. And not only that, the thing that I notice, obviously, my role now in recruiting for the same industry, building and real estate, I see a lot of people, and it's called job hopping, and now in the generation coming through now, it's a normal thing, but for someone like yourself to, okay, you've had really only 3 main roles here over 35 years, I can see 5 or 6 sometimes in less than 6 years, so what is it that you had a passion, but you've also had some great businesses you've worked at as well. Who was it, the people that inspired you to keep going on such a, I guess, a rough path?
Yeah, and it probably leads to one of the mentoring aspects that I'm heavily involved in now, because mentoring is really important, and you don't have to be part of a structured mentoring program. So I have always sought out people that inspired me, and I watched them from a distance. And I was fortunate enough to have a lady that was in the industry as a general manager, and the ceiling was certainly glass for me, but it was concrete for her. So she was a generation before me. So I watched her at a distance for a really long time, and I could see all the challenges that she went through, and I would process and analyse how I would handle that, and how I would, if that had happened to me, how would I tackle that? And it's quite interesting, because about 10 years ago, I met with this lady, and I let her know that I'd been watching her from a distance. And she was so proud, and I learned so much from her, and we still keep in touch now. So, yeah, but I think seeking out people that are doing things that you aspire to be, watching them, or even approaching them and saying, I want to go down that pathway. What guidance or what advice would you give me? And you'd be very surprised, because the sisterhood of women in the industry are always trying to help others make it a smoother transition, because we've got to set that future and make it easier for women to come through, because considering we only have nationally 14.5% of women in the construction industry, and only 8.3 as apprentices. And in WA, we're bucking the trend a little bit, but that's been through a lot of hard work over the last 3 years, and an awareness program and mentoring. In WA, we're 17.5% of women in the construction industry, and 9% of women are apprentices. But we've still got a long way to go, considering the women make up nearly 50% of the population. There's great opportunity for women, and even diversity. I mean, there's opportunities, for mature age women and males too, getting in the industry, because a lot of people have left, and they've got great opportunities now to get back, because there's a skill set there that the new generation really need or can learn from as well. But yeah, the job hopping is certainly something that the new generation are doing, and I suppose we've got to look at it that it is a way of the future, and how do we tackle that? And if that job hopping goes from one skill set to another skill set, if we can control that and keep it in our industry, it is actually benefiting everybody, and everyone's getting a skill set, because I understand, you know, culture, and everybody wants something out of an environment that they're spending so many hours in, and no two people are going to want the same outcome. I think COVID has really helped with the flexibility. People have now adjusted businesses to be able to create more flexibility. People know that working 9 to 5, 5 days a week, a business can get more benefit and productivity, and people get more balance with flexibility. So that's a really big shift over the last 3 years, and I think we're in that transition period. We just now need to tweak and nurture that to make that work for the new generations, for innovation, and making sure those skill sets get passed down as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, the real estate, property and building industry certainly has, I mean, it's suffered, but it's also, I feel, grown over COVID. And there are so many opportunities there that it can evolve if the change is embraced. And I don't believe in change for the sake of it, but certainly there is opportunity. You know, and certainly the 9 to 5 has changed. I don't know if it's got longer or shorter, but it's just different. So, I mean, how does your day start? When we only chatted yesterday, you were telling me about how many things you've got coming up, and it sounds like you're going to be on a lot of planes as well. But what does your day look like? When does it start, and when does it end?
Yeah, so I'm a really conscious planner. So I pretty much plan my year. I can see what's coming through the whole year, and then every month I zone into that, and then every week on a Sunday night I zone into the week, what I have to achieve. So I'm also a grandmother of 2. So after being married for 38 years, I could proudly say, you know, the 2 kids that we've got, we have 2 grandchildren as well. So I've now got an added, I suppose, wonderful role of balancing grandchildren. So I, you know, make sure I get to swimming, and I make sure I get to the dancing, and so I now incorporate that. So what a week will look like for me is I may spend a weekend preparing for my week to make my week run smoother. If I have to do a drop off or a pick up with the grandchildren, then I incorporate that into my day. I do have to fly over to nationals this coming week for jobs and skills. Now this weekend I'll be preparing papers and documents. So I suppose the added advantage I've got now is the children are both married and have their own families. So I don't have that at home. My husband and I kind of plan our weekends around each other, and we have hobbies that we like to do independently, and then I target into, while he's doing his hobbies, to my hobby and passion is building and construction. So I target doing a lot of prep and reading for boards and things like that, so then my week can run really smooth. And then I've always got nights to catch up if I find something falls behind, or I've got deadlines I need to meet. So it definitely is about the planning for me. If it's not planned, it's not going to run smoothly.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's great advice. Now, you've Inspired Homes 7 years. What's the team look like there that you sort of, you know, work with?
Yeah, so we're quite a small team. When I started, it was a small business. We did grow to a medium business. The team is, I suppose we work very closely with each other. So I'm in every department. I'm a real hands-on general manager. So things will escalate to me, but what I do is empower and train the staff to be able to make informed decisions. And if they get stuck or need advice, they know I'm only a phone call away, or usually they flick something to me and then I've got an answer or a guidance with them. I can have supervisors ring me and say, which I had yesterday, you know, need some assistance with a matter that's happened on site. What are our options? I said, well, we can do this, do this, do this. Let's have a look at it, break it down. We soundboarded it as a team and came up with the best solution. So as we know in building and construction, things are always going to pop up. You need to obviously make informed decisions for the best solution to be able to move forward with it. But yeah, everyone, I try to engage people that are multitasked, so multi-skilled. So then as work moves in through different departments, people can then move with that work. So that's something that I've always kind of been conscious of. if they've got more than one role skill. That's something that I really tap into. And customer, as I said at the beginning, customer service and customer focus, it's got to be number one. And especially in the last few years, it's been really, really hard to meet the expectations with timeframes and product and everything, but it's all about the communication. And you can only, I mean, I'm ringing clients at all hours of the night sometimes just to make sure they're getting communication and they're not being left out, unaware of what's happening with delays and product coming into the country.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's if you continue that level of customer service, then and that is seen from the leader as well throughout the business. It's always a top-down approach, in my view. And it's the other thing what I found in speaking to a lot of leaders recently is some of them during COVID lifted the game, all right, because all of a sudden there may not have been as many clients to talk to, but the staff was still there, and it's about them being your client. How did you manage through that? Because I know you were there through all that process, and obviously the company would have gone through challenges, the industry did as well, plus you've got your own staff. What did you do differently during that period that you've now continued through to now, or did it really change much for you?
Well, for us, it's always been about customer experience. So it's the experience the customer goes through from the moment they engage with us right through to handover. So there's certain things that we do to keep a client engaged and aware. With the challenges, I took on a lot of personal communications myself because, as you can appreciate, the consumer's very frustrated in the last few years. And, you know, even the way consumers communicate sometimes hasn't, you know, come across as you would like it to have been with your staff. So there's a few different elements here. One, nurturing the staff to be able to get through those communications without, you know, mental health problems, because there's been a lot of mental health problems over the last 3 years in every industry. So I personally took that on myself. I communicated with every client on the price reviews, met with them, gave them the opportunity to meet, etc. And we've kind of kept that communication. I continue to communicate because when you've got something so passionate, and a house is the biggest thing that consumer's going to build, it's really personal. So, you know, you want to be talking to, you want to keep escalating up till you're talking to the one at the top. So we've just removed that frustration and just do that as part of our everyday on certain matters that are, you know, very personal and passionate to a client. So documentation and portals and all those type of things still remain, but we've just made them more, I suppose, open and accessible to our clients.
Yeah, fantastic. Now, you mentioned some statistics, and thank you for that, around the women in the industry. And I know you're very passionate about that, and you've mentioned being the ambassador of the Women's Building Australia. What is something the industry can do that, I know encouraging them is a very open word, and yes, we want to encourage them into the industry, but something we spoke about a little while ago was making women feel safe in the industry. Now, how do we do that? Is that, do you think, something that is stopping women? And it's a big topic and it's way longer than our session, but is there any, like, I don't know. I mean, you certainly have been in this space for a long time, and yes, it has increased. What are your thoughts on that? What can be done?
So there's a few different elements that come with that. So getting the younger generation into the industry starts at school, and the biggest mentor and guidance are your parents. So awareness and communication with students at school is really important to make the parents feel safe that their children are going into a safe industry. The safety in the building and industry has improved certainly over the last few years, especially with the influx of regulations and work safe legislations. So making it more comfortable and safe for women to work on building sites has certainly been a focus. And you can see that shifting and changing. I was travelling down the freeway today, and as we know, the freeway in Perth is always got new roads happening.
Yeah.
But it was really lovely to see toilet blocks, two, one for women and one for men. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
whereas you go before and no one would take jobs unless they were close to a McDonald's where there was close to a toilet, and if you'd ever walked into some of those toilets on site, you'd open the door and walk back out again. So it starts with the little things, and there's some really good, government's done some really good media campaign on awareness around, you know, teaching your sons on being respectful to women from a very young age. And that was a fantastic campaign that's on television at the moment, and it was encouraging to see that getting so much traction. But that also filtrates into the building industry as well and on site. I remember the first time I went on site, and you wouldn't eat a banana, or you wouldn't eat anything, because you would just constantly be copying, and you learn to give it back. Times have changed so much now that you shouldn't have to give it back. And I think that awareness and the campaigns that are happening have certainly given awareness to that space. And it's almost like now you go to a site, and if somebody tries something like that, the other guys on site are saying, "Hey mate, pull your head in," and that's fantastic to see, because you go back 10 years and that would never happen.
So true.
So it's certainly shifting, and the safe space, it's wonderful to see that change. So yeah, it's really good opportunity now for students to follow that pathway into trades or apprentices, instead of the university paths. You know, everyone's not set up for the university, and you can earn just as much money through a trade or the corporate world in the industry, and the chance of opening your own business are, you know, there as well. So it's
absolutely.
just it's giving that criteria to people to get that awareness to make those informed decisions. And there's a really good website on the Women Building Australia platform that actually has career opportunities and pathways, and there's a booklet that can be downloaded, and that gives some really good insight.
What was that one again, Paula? I'll make a note of that.
Women Building Australia website, and it's actually called, if I remember, something like a jobs pathways booklet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. No, I'll get that information. I'll put it in the show notes as well, because it's really important. And you know, what you just said was such a simple change with having a male and female toilets on site, that I can see how easy it is to overlook that, because until you said that, my mind was it wasn't a problem, but it absolutely is. You're right. And yes, I have been to a number of those those site toilets, and they're not fun for even a bloke.
And credit to a lot of companies as well. You know, and in this case, I had one company say, "We want to get more females into the industry. Do you have any suggestions?" When I was doing a keynote speech over that last year. And I said, well, you need to change the uniforms, because women don't want to look like they're in a drab, kind of, I want to say something, but I'm not going to say it, but, you know, the all green, you know, outfit. And, you know, if you look at uniforms, you'll be surprised how many women will want to start entering into that field. And sure enough, about 3 months ago, I got a call to say, thank you so much for that advice. We changed our uniforms. And we've now got an influx of 25% more women applying for the jobs as a result. So, fantastic. Yeah, it's just, again, little tweaks.
Yeah. It's always the little things. And look, it's not, I know we've spoken a lot about, obviously, site, you know, trades for women and what have you, and safety, which is a key issue. For safety for men as well, but it's also, there's other pathways. They can get into administration and things like that, which is, and then do some study around business, and then follow a pathway similarly to yours too, end up being a general manager of a building company, right?
Correct. Yeah. And you just need to determine, I've always said, follow your dream. Find out what your dream is. What do you want to do? Then work out how you get there. And surround yourself with the people and the skill set and the knowledge that can get you there. And it might be a stepping stone. Like you talk about people changing jobs every 2 years. Well, if you go into a role and then work your way up to other roles. That pathway, you know, is great for stability, great for surrounding yourself with, you know, family mentoring network. And you can go anywhere from, you know, the administrational roles, from interior design to supervisor or schedulers, accounts, drafting design, estimating, anything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a wonderful industry. I mean, I started in that industry in 1998 when my father was in building, and, you know, diversified. Yes, I've had a lot of different roles, but it's been predominantly in the same field. And it is exciting. It is a great industry. It's fun. And yes, you can make a lot of money out of it and have a great career, as you've demonstrated. So tell me, we've had something pretty big happen over the last couple of days, obviously the federal budget, and I don't want to really talk politics too much, but I know you have a couple of viewpoints, and a lot of it was good for the building industry. What are your thoughts on it? I know we've got across different states, different issues with trades and materials, and we build a little bit differently, and that's another, we could do a whole podcast around that as well. Where do you see it, and how does it place us as far as the building industry?
Well, I think the biggest challenge the industry's got is skilled labour. And being able to get there is not enough people in the whole of Australia to actually fill the roles that the industry needs.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter how much a consumer begs and pleads to build their house faster. You cannot create a roof carpenter, and the only thing that's going to fix that is time. So everyone's in a queue, and then to go from that one to 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 that one. So the skilled labour is the biggest challenge. The opening up the borders to let you know, the visas, more, I suppose, skilled labour come in. The problem is where you're going to house them. So there's, I suppose, a lot more challenge that's kind of come from implementing one thing to fix one thing to how that plays out. That's one of the reasons I'm going over this week over east to really delve into how that's going to play out. But if we can get the trades to actually into the state to be able to build all these homes, I think there was 500,000 homes that needed to be built over the course of a period of time. I can't remember exactly how much it was. I'm just trying to refresh my notes there. The industry is facing the labour shortage. Right now we need, over the next 5 years, 5,000 workers nationally to meet our growth projection. So that's huge. Yeah. And the problem is we're not breeding enough. So in Australia, we're not having 8 kids, you know, anymore.
I thought the COVID baby boom was good.
You're having 1 or 2 children. So Australia is never going to be able to fulfil what it needs to fulfil. So the only way to help the economy is to source people from other countries. You know,
I think we might have heard it first, folks. Paula West has just solved the problem. You've had it so true. Oh, that's great. That's great. No, but look, there are some good initiatives. I think you're right. It's not a quick fix. It's going to take a long time to fix, but we're moving towards it, which is positive. Now, talking about positive, what about you moving forward for the future with Inspired? What that you can share that you'd like to? What's next?
So I suppose every building company kind of shifted over the last 3 years to be able to cater for the building bonuses and the federal grants and everything like that, because builders were trying to stop numbers to only be able to build what they could, and then they had consumers begging because they wanted to get into the industry, and then, you know, you have the conversation that if you come in, there's going to be a time lag, and then the West Australian actually said on the front page 3 years to build a home, to kind of like advise consumers it was going to take a period of time. I think everyone forgot about that 3 years because everyone still wants the home. But a lot of builders, and ourselves included, have gone back to exactly what we like to do and what our model is. So, for inspired homes, first home buyers isn't normally our market. Obviously, the building bonuses actually pull all of that clientele out of the woodwork, and everyone wants to help everyone. So, if you can get someone into a home, you're going to help get them into a home. That's what we are passionate about. So we'll do a bit of alignment to, bring us back to our true core with the type of work that we do. And we've already started that transition now. We're back to the size of the staff that, that suits our model. So now it's just making sure that our customer service and help the clients that are still stuck on site, waiting trades, and keep those communications up. And, try to remind them that, in 5 years' time, they'll be telling this story to their children, and 10, 15, they'll be telling it to their grandchildren. Because I remember I waited 6 months for my roof, because when I built in 2000, we not only had GST, but we also had roof tilers go on strike. So everyone has a bit of a story to tell when they're building a home, but, once you're in there, that's all kind of like by the wayside, and you live your life. But yeah, and with me, I just want to continue to give back to industry. I want to continue to mentor and make sure I can share my knowledge with as many people as possible, to make their pathway smoother. And we're not going to be around forever. There's one thing, we're all going to go one day, and I just want to hope that my legacy is that all my knowledge is being passed on to others, so then it makes their pathway smoother, and they're following their dream. Because I've always said, be true to yourself, follow your dream, don't be someone else's chess piece. Make sure you end up where you want to be and not where others want you to be. So, but I mean, I've always believed that children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way.
Well said. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. I was really excited, and you've just given so much information, so many tips for young people looking to start a career. I mean, obviously in building, but the tips and advice you've given could go across any industry, to do exactly what they want to do. How can people get to talk to you if you're open to that? Where can they contact you?
So I'll probably, I've got a lot of little LinkedIn. You're more than welcome to tap into me LinkedIn. I have a lot of people contact me via LinkedIn, asking me to mentor them or guide them. I'm part of a mentoring program on Women Building Australia that you can tap into, and that's a really good mentoring program. You actually get buddied up with somebody, you put all the skill sets that you want to learn, and you get buddied up with somebody that has that skill set. So I really encourage people to tap into that, because you learn so much, and you can be a mentee or a mentor, and usually some people I've menteed are now mentors. So again, it's different opportunities for different people, or depends what they're looking for. But yeah, LinkedIn, if anyone wants to connect, I'm more than welcome to open up that forum for them.
Fantastic. I'm sure many people are going to reach out to you, Paula. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. I know you're going to be off very soon. You've got a busy few months ahead of you. So I appreciate you fitting me in, and take care, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you very much, Nick.
Thanks,
have a great
Paula.
day.
You too. Bye.